Institute hosted a discussion that seeked to explore, define and inspire ways in which the arts community can collaborate across various disciplines and across geographic boundaries. Beyond Borders, which was held at the Market Theatre Laboratory, also introduced international artists and works that are part of this year's dance umbrella. The discussion used the knowledge, opinions and points of art practitioners like playwright and director James Ngcobo, choreographers Neli, Xaba and Gregory Maqoma, filmmaker Jyoti, Mistry and a fine art educator, critic and curator Thembinkosi Goniwe. Now the discussion, which was open to the public, was moderated by journalist, editor and blogger Mary Corrigal, who's here to tell us more about Beyond Borders. Good morning, welcome to Winning Live.
Thank you.
Let's talk about Beyond Borders. I mean, what inspired it and what was the discussion about?
Well, the discussion actually came out of a dance writers workshop that I've been leading almost every year prior to the dance umbrella. And the workshop was really, I've kind of carved it out to be a space not only to educate young dance writers or wannabe dance writers, but also I try to identify a theme each year that is linked to the dance umbrella, the program, that is inspired by the program. And then we tackle this theme through the Dance Writers Workshop. This year I decided to do something slightly different because the discussions that we have in this workshop I find are always so rich and interesting. I decided this year that the final session would take place in public and that I was going to invite a whole lot of different arts practitioners, as you mentioned, and we were going to tackle this topic and do so publicly and invite artists and the public to participate, watch, and so that was more or less where it came from. And of course the Dance Umbrella program this year, when I studied it closely, I noticed that almost every performance was across different boundaries, mostly geographic boundaries. Say, for example, we have Jessica Newpin, who's Rebellion in Johannesburg. She's Hamburg-based, although South African-born, Hamburg-based, and she's come to South Africa and worked with the dance company moving into dance Moiputing. And then we have, we've got Russians and South Africans, we have Portuguese and South Africans. So it felt that this was a topic that was relevant to the dance umbrella. But I also felt that it was relevant to the arts in general, that actually over 20 years now, outside of cultural art isolation, since the end of apartheid, South Africans are slowly making work that's not about South Africa anymore, and they're collaborating with people beyond different borders. Also within our own borders, we now have this massive African population who are shifting our cultural expression. So within our sort of cultural sphere, the boundaries, geographic boundaries that used to define artistic expression are eroding. And I felt this is something we should talk about. We're making art differently. We're making art about different topics and we're thinking differently about art. And so that's really why we had this discussion.
And, why do you think it's taking so long for these different disciplines to come together? And here's a common thing that is art, that is binding us, but yet operating differently.
Absolutely. I mean, this was a comment that all the panelists made. When I invited them, they said, "Oh, thank goodness, finally." And it's been something that I have felt so strongly about for a long time, that the arts community is so fragmented. The dance community have their little bubble, the fine art community, the theatre community, the film community, and we're not talking to each other very much. And we don't support each other as much as we should. So this was a good opportunity to take a theme from a dance umbrella, which is around something inspired by contemporary dance, and looking at actually, theatre makers and playwrights are also dealing with similar kinds of issues within the fine arts. Thembinkosi Goniwe, he has been for the last 2 or 3 years curating shows with art from different parts of the continent. So in every single discipline, we're moving across these boundaries, and we're not talking to each other about what we're doing. So yes, there was an overwhelming sense of, finally, we're talking.
And this conversation is long overdue.
Very
Mary,
much so.
thank you so much for talking to us. Hopefully this is the start of many conversations,
I think
in the arts industry. Arts journalist, blogger and editor Mary Corrigal moderated the panel discussion, which was hosted by the Goethe Institut on Tuesday at the Market Theatre Lab in Johannesburg. The discussion, which focused on making art across disciplines and geographic boundaries, was titled Beyond Borders. The likes of thespian James Ngcobo, dance giant, can we call him that? Gregory, Maqoma, and other industry practitioners, and art educator Thembinkosi Goniwe was also part of that discussion, sharing their knowledge, ideas and opinions on the subject. www.goethe.de for more information. All right, let's take a break.